Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Gran Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Gran Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Gran Group by emailing thegran, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Gran Group with Edina Realty, three-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners. On this episode, David and Dan discuss the Twins' three-game series against the Kansas City Royals. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins managed to steal one win away from the mighty Royals. Terrible showing by your Minnesota Twins. Dan Thompson, the way that I look at this Twins season thus far, there are two losses on Duffy, like squarely on Duffy's shoulders. One loss is on Thielbar, and the rest of the losses, Dan Thompson, are on what was supposed to be this powerhouse offense, the Bomba Squad circa 2022. Where are the bats for this Minnesota Twins team?
So Aaron Gleeman tweeted that this is the first time in Twins history, at least heading into the game here on Thursday, first time in Twins history they've had a batting average below the Mendoza line. That's 200 after 12 games. Ugh. Yikes. I can see that from teams, when we were kids, when they weren't very good in the 90s. But now when you got Correa, Buxton, Arise? Ugh.
Last episode, Dan, you talked so much about how this team has so much potential, and like when those bats get going, like Correa was talking about, it's going to be fun. I want that time now, Dan, when they're losing games by minuscule run totals. I want those bats to be alive now.
You know what? It's a long season, David, so let's see what happens. They're 5-8. They got a lot of baseball left to play. That's what they're saying, so I guess we can say that too.
Wonderful. Well, with that, Dan, let's jump into the series recap.
Series recap.
David, game one for me was the really frustrating one. The Twins lose this game. They lose it 4-3. They have 2-1 lead. They have a 3-2 lead. And then it falls apart in the sixth, and they just can't get one run across the plate to tie the game.
So this was frustrating. Archer goes on the mound. He's okay, right? He looks okay. He gets through 4 1/3, 4 hits, 2 runs, both of them earned with 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, and a home run. Now, he leaves with the bases loaded and 1 out, and Rocco makes a brilliant move, calls in the guy who I said was going to have a phenomenal season.
You did.
Joe Smith, 1 pitch, Dan Thompson, gets a double play ball out of the inning. How about that?
I got sick of watching double play balls in this series, David, because it felt like everybody was hitting into a ton of them. But the key one there, I was just frustrated with the lack of production with runners in scoring position. They were 3 for 11, the Twins were, with 9 left on base. And they were leaving guys, Correa was leaving guys in scoring position. Kepler, Jeffers, who we're going to get to later, just could not string together any hits, and then no home runs either. They didn't hit a home run in this whole series.
No, but the Royals hit 2 off Duffy.
Which, you know what? Salvador Perez, my gosh, is he 50 years old now? He's
old.
He feels like he's been doing this to the Twins forever. We sometimes have this feeling about players, right? Like some of the players for the Guardians, I feel like, they've been getting hits against the Twins forever. But Salvador Perez is the godfather of just punishing the Twins.
I think it was Gladden on the broadcast today was talking about how what a large round of applause Perez gets every time he comes to the plate just because he's been there so long. There's some sort of honorary, like, you're old and we appreciate it sort of round of applause.
Good on the Royals, but this is a team the Twins should be beating. They can't afford to be losing to the Royals.
We'll see what happens when they get to the White Sox series. We don't want to talk about that quite yet, but the White Sox have not exactly been a powerhouse team as of late, Dan Thompson.
One other thing we should talk about from game one is in the third inning when Tommy Watkins, I think, makes another bad send from third, if you want to go ahead and explain what happened.
Yeah, so a couple of things here, just about third base coach in general, Dan. The third base coach is the person who needs to have the best understanding when risk is appropriate and when it's inappropriate. And in the top of the third inning, Dan, Gary Sanchez leads off the inning with a double. So he's at second, yet Ryan Jeffers at the plate, and he hits a single. And Tommy Watkins, Dan, we have said the name of the third base coach far more times than we should have at this point in this particular season. But he decides to send Sanchez home. And again, he has one job, risk assessment and understanding how long it's going to take a guy to get from third base to home and how long it's going to take the fielders to get the ball to home plate.
And does he understand that Sanchez is not Byron Buxton?
That's what I don't understand. Like, the guys he's sending, like, these big lumbering guys home, he has some sort of understanding of velocity and speed that, like, as soon as they get going, they're like a freight train. They're really going to keep going here. But so this is what I don't understand. So he sends them. Let me ask you, would you rather have 1 out, no runs, and a runner on first, or no outs and a runner in first and third with Luis Arraez coming up next?
Yeah, I'd rather have that. I'd rather have Luis Arraez in an RBI situation. In a scoreless game, when you're on the road, you need a win. You have seemingly, and at that point, they were coming off a game where they had actually gotten some runs and hits, right? So at that point, I'm thinking, okay, there's some momentum building here, and that totally killed the momentum of this game. I know that, they scored a couple runs in the next couple innings to take a lead, but man, I wanted them to be up 5-0 in this game.
They should have been.
And they easily could have been with just, at least you get 1 run there. Luis Arraez is a good enough hitter. He's going to get Sanchez in.
How many times have we seen this where a third base coach gets demoted, Dan, mid-season? Does it happen all that often? I guess I don't pay all that much attention to the coaching staff.
I think Rocco would find a way to make it happen in a very quiet and respectful way. So we'll see. Let's keep an eye on Tommy Watkins.
We're just giving him a little time to recover.
There you go. Let's go on to game 2, which there's not a ton to say about here, David. The Twins lose this one 2-0. They have 5 hits, and that's it. 5 singles, David. Not even an extra base hit here.
Couldn't get it done. Paddack is on the mound. I think, Dan, that this is a guy that we're going to see get better as the season progresses. Mm-hmm. I made reference to that last time he was on the mound, that the more time Wes Johnson has with this kid, the better he's going to be. So he pitched 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, both of them earned. If he pitched 6 innings, I'm okay with the 2 earned runs. 5 innings, 2 earned runs, don't love it. He had 4 strikeouts. He looked okay. But again, this particular loss was not on the pitching. So you had Paddack, Thielbar, and Stashak, which it was good to see Stashak come out and be effective here. But if the pitching only allows 2 runs, the offense needs to pick up the pitching.
Well, first of all, you're not going to score many runs just hitting singles, right? You're going to have to get a couple extra base hits in there somewhere, and they should have more runs than this.
Dan, I honestly don't know what to tell you, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but it is getting a little bit embarrassing. The pitching that was supposed to be our weakness is turning out to be our strength, and the offense just cannot get it going.
All right, well, let's look at game 3, because the offense got it kind of going in game 3. The Twins win. They win game 3 1-0 on the strength of a Miguel Sano sacrifice fly. That's all it took.
Can you believe it, Dan? He finally got his offensive mojo going.
He moved the runner along, right? He did the little things, which it seemed like the Twins were poised for a number of big innings. They did have 8 hits in this game. They just couldn't, again, string them together. But this was the weird thing to me, David. How do you have 8 hits and you only go 0 for 1 with runners in scoring position? Like, isn't that weird?
It's pretty impressive, especially when we're used to seeing weird box scores. That's normally because the Twins scored all of their runs on home runs.
Yeah.
Right? But that's not the case in this particular outing.
Joe Ryan goes 6. He doesn't give up any runs. He has 2 hits. He has 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. Another great outing for Joe Ryan. And then the bullpen takes care of the rest. And I wonder, is this the progression you think that we're going to see from the bullpen? Duran, Smith, and Pagan?
I think so, yes. Once Alcala comes back, he probably mixes in as well. But as of right now, I think you're right, that I think this is almost exactly how Rocco's going to draw it up and how he probably should draw it up.
I do wonder where Duffy's going to fit and how this is going to go. But if those 3 guys can be a pretty solid back end, I don't actually feel that awful about the pitching.
I don't know how you could, right? Like you had pointed out last episode about how, the bullpen has had its struggles, but as far as the starting pitching is concerned, they're some of the best in the league right now, Dan.
It's pretty amazing. All right, well, let's go on to Puckett's picks. We have a unique situation here with Puckett's picks.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
I'm sad about what happened, but it was fun to sort of figure out who won via the lore and the rule book we had to dig into, Dan Thompson.
Well, so first of all, when I'm counting these up, I literally just had kind of one hand out and I was just lowering fingers and raising fingers because there were so many pluses and minuses with the ground into double plays, with the strikeouts, with the singles. Like there was just not a lot of movement here. I ended up losing. Correa only had 1 point for me, but Polanco had 2 for you and Ursula had 2 for the listeners. And we had to go pretty deep into the Puckett's Picks tiebreakers here. So our first tiebreaker is most home runs, but there were no home runs. We had to go with least strikeouts, and they each struck out, I believe it was once, the same number of times. So David, I actually, because I was the neutral party here with no horse in the race, I had to come up with a third tiebreaker, and I went with runners left on base. And it was that, David, that gave Ursula the win. He only had 2 runners left on base. Polanco had 5. So the listeners get their second win of the season. And David, you are still shut out through 4 series.
I couldn't get any closer to winning, Dan. I could not get any closer to winning.
No, you didn't, and importantly, you still haven't. So this is great for my morale here early on in the season. All right, so the next segment here, David, Beast versus Bench.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
I don't love to pick pitchers for this. There is a principle behind it because they're only out there one time. And
did
yet,
you pick a pitcher last episode, Dan?
I did. And yet here I find myself, when the Twins only score 4 runs in a series, I don't know what else to do. So I went with Joe Ryan. I mean, the guy had another great start. He outdueled Zach Greinke, and there we go. So I picked him.
I did find an offensive player to choose, Dan, this time around, and that is Nick Gordon.
Oh, that must have been hard for you to pick Nick Gordon.
It was a little bit. Like, I've been a little bit hard on Gordon. Not really, though. Like, I just feel like he's not necessarily an everyday player, and I don't love him in center field. So it's less about me sort of like picking on Nick Gordon and more just confused why Celestino isn't starting. Not because, like, Gordon is a bad player, but he's not a natural center fielder. And because the offensive ceiling is pretty low, I don't know how often he should be starting in center field over Celestino. But he went 1 for 2 in game 1. And then in game 2, he came in just as a defensive replacement. But then in game 3, this is what I thought was most important here. He went 2 for 3. Only one guy left on base. I think it's one of those things, Dan, where because he's not necessarily that everyday player, just the fact that he stuck out this strongly to me in this series made me think that he's deserving of the moniker this time around.
As for Bench, David, we both went with Ryan Jeffers here. He was 1 for 10, 3 strikeouts in the series. Still not that catching, hitting force that we hoped he would be. Just going to leave it at that, and let's move forward into the next segment.
Rocco's Rewind.
Rocco's Rewind, Dan Thompson. I like what you have here. Tell me a little bit more about what you have for Rocco.
So, again, I'm conflicted here. So, it was obviously nice to see Byron Buxton DHing. He DH'd in Game 3 after missing, I believe it was 5 games in a row, after missing the last 3 in Boston and the first 2 against Kansas City. Great to see there. But here's the deal. I know that this is the right choice in this moment to have him come back and DH. There was an article, I think it was on Twins Daily, that was talking about whether the Twins should be DHing Buxton more, giving him more regular DHing. And I don't want to see that. And here's why. Because Byron Buxton's real quality is the whole package, right? Like a limited Byron Buxton DHing. And I also have trouble thinking that guy's competitive fire is so great. I can't imagine he wants to just be sitting there DHing. But I also want him to be healthy. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't mind it sort of bringing him back sort of piece by piece. And I'd rather have his bat in the lineup than say he's not doing anything, obviously. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I do not want to see him DHing unless he absolutely has to. And if that's the only way he can get in the game, sure. But yeah, you want to see him on the field. And he does seem like a guy who sort of feeds on that defensive energy. He brings that to his offensive side as well.
Well, and he had a hit in the game. And anytime Byron Buxton is able to get on the base paths, you just feel a little bit better about the Twins' chances to score a run. And you feel better about Tommy Watkins sending him from any base
yes. to first to home. Doesn't even hit second or third. Watkins won't worry about it, I'm sure.
What's yours?
I really liked him going to Smith in game 1 when it was a super high leverage situation. Honestly, the most stressful situation you can bring a guy in, right? Mm-hmm. He's got bases loaded and 1 out. And Smith comes in and gets it done. So you go with a guy who has literally seen it all, Dan. He has played in 1 million games as a reliever in the Major League Baseball. And so I think that this was a very wise move. How fun is it to come in that high pressure situation and get it done right away? He wasted no time at all making quick work of that Royals lineup.
It is nice to have a veteran come in and actually provide that veteran presence to the bullpen because that's exactly what they need. They need a guy who's calm and cool in those situations.
Sort of as the part that I hated after I loved him going to Smith. I hated him going to Duffy, but it's super hard to criticize him because who else is he supposed to go to?
And honestly, in this series, they didn't really overwork the bullpen. The starters gave him enough innings. I think it's weird, though, David, that we have had so little criticism of Rocco in a season where they're 5-8. You'd think there'd be more going wrong. I just think it's not Rocco's fault.
Well, outside of batting 4 guys, I don't know what else he can do. If your offense isn't scoring runs and your defense is keeping your team in the game, how much can you do as a manager other than replacing the third base coach at this point?
That would be the biggest move I think that Rocco could make right now.
He should, though. But I want to know, how many more bad calls will it take before Watkins is Remember when this happened a couple of seasons ago when Diaz was at third base and he made some terrible calls? And what I hated is he got kind of attacked on Twitter and then he responded, "I'm still going to send them every time." That is the worst mindset of a third base coach I've ever heard. I'm still going to send them every time. This is your job. This is your one job, is to hit grounders to guys when they're warming up before the game and to figure out when you should send guys and not to. Your response should not be, I send them every time. I just hit the button. He's a toddler, Dan. He's a toddler who found a machine that gives him a candy bar every time he hits a button. And he's like, I'm going to send them every time. What are you talking about? So they're like, oh, we'll get Watkins out there. He'll be great. He has less of an understanding than Diaz does, and that's saying something, Dan. My goodness.
Fans want an ejection. There it goes.
And that was Gardy's gripe.
You know, David, you were kind of like a volcano there, just kind of waiting. We kind of steamed a little bit earlier, and then there you go, kablooey.
We should not be talking about a third base coach as much as we're talking about him, Dan. That's what's so frustrating about this. He's not even a player. He's not even a player, Dan. He stands on the side. He's not in the lines. He's not in the foul lines, Dan. He's outside of those. And we're talking about him more than we're talking about other players. Driving me nuts.
I thought you were done. All right, well.
You started me going again. You always get me going, and then you keep me going, Dan.
All right, let's go to Minnesota Moment.
Minnesota Moment.
Can you go first? I got to calm down.
I will go first here. So Chris Paddack said a funny thing. So Chris Paddack, to remind people, is very new to this Twins lineup. I don't even know, does he even have a place to live in the Twin Cities yet?
Probably not.
He was traded on opening day, and he's quoted in the Star Tribune by saying to his teammates Wednesday night in his start, "Hey boys, I need your help here." Like talking to his teammates, his much ballyhooed teammates. And first of all, I love it. But second, like, doesn't this break kind of like a rule that you don't do in baseball? Like, you don't tell the batters anything if you're the starting pitcher, in the way that they don't want, starting pitchers don't want hitters interfering there. But I loved it because it was what every Minnesota Twins fan is saying. And Chris Paddack, the new guy's like, I'm looking around. I got Carlos Correa. I got Byron Buxton. I got Luis Ariz. I got all these guys. And you guys can't give me more than 0 runs here? Come on.
I mean, do you think he's sort of longingly looking at the Padres lineup and the runs they're putting up? A quick Taylor Rogers check-in, Dan, in case you were wondering. Since our last episode, he did add another save. Still only 1 hit given up in his 5 save opportunities, of which he's saved all 5 games. However, Dan, big moment, he gave up a walk.
Oh, that was my moment. What about you?
It's funny that your moment last episode and this episode were both about what Twins players have said not on the baseball.
Well, they're not doing anything on the baseball field, David, so I feel like I have to do something they're talking about afterward.
So I'm gonna go with Sano's sack fly, I guess.
A sacrifice fly is your moment.
What else do you like a sack fly is a Minnesota moment. Makes a lot of sense if it's a walk-off sack fly in the bottom of the 9th. But like Sano hitting a sack fly early against the Royals is my Minnesota moment. That should tell you how great this series was, Dan.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's Musings.
Let's just take a moment here to ask a question about Miguel Sano, and I feel like I'm teeing up a batting practice 50-mile-an-hour underhand, whatever it is to you, David. So here you go. What's the problem with Miguel Sano right now?
I don't know, Dan. He's in the best shape of his life.
He is, but clearly that's not doing as much as I hoped it would. He's still 40 home runs off of my predicted total.
Off the pace.
He's a little off the pace. He's gonna have to pick it up here. So I'm wondering, like, is he swinging wrong? Like, is he? I don't know what's going on here, because I had such high hopes for Miguel Sano, and he's struggling. He's clearly struggling right now. I think he's hitting about 0.93 right now is his average.
No, but it should be said, he is showing more patience at the plate. And like, everybody who's sort of the Homer Twins fan at this point is saying, well, Sano's a very streaky player. It's like, yeah, they're streaky. I'm curious, Dan, how long can a streak be before you say the player is bad? Like, is there a time frame before you're like, it's not just he's streaky? Like, Dan, I could say I'm really streaky at professional tennis. I have yet, Dan, to win any games of professional tennis, but I'm just a really streaky professional tennis player, Dan.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you're a great cook, David. You just haven't quite moved past mac and cheese, right? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. I am a chef who only cooks at home. So.
I do think Miguel Sano is going to break out, but this feels like last season where like we were just waiting for him to crawl past the 200 mark. And he still has to crawl past the 100 mark. So I have high hopes for this White Sox series.
The Mendoza line is 200. What is the Sano?
It might be the Sano line. It might be the Sano line. Anyway, what about you, sir? What's your musing?
So to sort of piggyback off this, because Sano is not the only one who has been struggling on this team, Dan, including the highest paid infielder in Major League Baseball, Carlos Correa, has had some issues as well. Here's my big question, Dan. When the offense picks up, which I am convinced it will, and I think you are as well. I can't imagine this is the actual offense that the Twins have to work with this season. Realistically, how much better do you think this offense can and will be?
I think this is a top 10 offense still by the end of the season because, and I will say with the caveat that Buxton's got to play. We've seen year in and year out, and we see this with other teams. I was trying to find the numbers. The Angels are not great without Mike Trout, for example. And I know that you've teased me for this comparison in the past, but I do think that Byron Buxton is to the Twins what Mike Trout is to the Angels. They just don't go without him. So I do think it's top 10 with Buxton. You're still chuckling. You go ahead. Go ahead, Vesuvius.
Because all I can think of in my mind is like, yeah, he's just like Trout to the Angels in that they can't win in the postseason.
Well, but there's that too. I mean, the Angels have barely been to the postseason with Trout.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I just made your point again. All right.
Yes,
fair point.
Thank you, Dan. I love that when you try and counter me and then add some emphasis and evidence to my point.
What do you think, sir?
I think when we look back at this sort of slow start, I think that if the pitching staff continues to play as well as they've played and keeps opposing teams under 5 runs, the Twins will win more games than they lose come the All-Star break.
I hope so. Let's get to series grades here.
Series grades.
Again, Dan, I feel like we're just too close. We can't even argue. I mean, we can argue about other things. This should be no higher than a D. I gave them a D- because you're playing the Royals. It's the easiest series that you're going to play in the month of April. You need to at least win the series. I went into this series thinking that they should sweep it, and then they're in a really good spot going in against the White Sox, who are struggling now. But that's just not the case. It's a D- for me. You did the bare minimum. You maybe passed the series in some weird way, but just barely, Dan. It was through guessing, more or less. They were able to get through this series with a D-.
Yeah, I went with a D just because of the great signs in the starting pitching. Because again, a road series where you hold the team to 6 runs, it's hard to say that everything fell off, that every wheel fell off the wagon there. I think a D is okay. And because Buxton didn't play the first 2 games, I'm going to say, it wasn't quite a D-. But again, we're splitting hairs here.
Here's my question. You put so much emphasis on Buxton being on the field, and I don't think that it's wrong to think that way, but I do think sometimes you overemphasize his importance to the team. If he does go down for a considerable amount of time, let's say he goes down for 4 series, do you think it's possible this team without Byron Buxton could win 4 series in a row?
No. I don't think so.
It's just not possible.
No, and here's why. Because we didn't this series, I think this is an anomaly. I didn't point to any moments in the series where I thought, Buxton would have caught that ball. But we did immediately in the Boston series after he went down in game 1. We said, there's a play there that Buxton would have made. And I think over the course of 4 series, he's going to make maybe not a handful, but a couple plays that really do save runs. And you pair that with his bat and his base running. That's a game-changing player right there when he's in both sides of the field.
Fair enough. Well, let's keep pushing here, Dan. Herbie's headline.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
David, one of my favorite things in baseball is the 3,000th hit. Isn't this exciting for you? And so Miguel Cabrera is on the cusp. He's at 2,999, and he's going to probably do it. He's got a series at home against the Rockies with the Tigers here over the next 3. Hoping he does it at home. So exciting. I hope that I get to watch that one because it's going to be a while before another player does it.
Who's the next closest who's active?
So I think the next active one who has the best shot is Jose Altuve. He's at 1,783. He's 32. So I think he could do it. But this isn't, that's many seasons away. We're probably, at least 5 seasons from Altuve reaching it? And if he reached it at 5, that would be, then we're talking, he could be a top 10 all time.
I actually flipped on the game the other night when he was at 2,999, thinking he's going to get his hit. And the thing is, it would have been really exciting. He didn't even get the opportunity, but had he gotten the opportunity, it would have been either a game-winning hit, likely, or at least a game-tying hit. So it would have been really cool if that was the opportunity. But unfortunately, he didn't get a chance. His teammates kind of let him down there.
Do you remember when Dave Winfield got his hit, David?
No, not too well.
You don't? Actually, okay. Well, so the reason I mentioned this is that, 2 of these guys in the top 25 are twins, right? Dave Winfield and then also Paul Molitor. Now, they weren't twins their entire career, but they, I believe, both got their 3,000th hit as a twin. And that's pretty cool. Pretty cool company. I don't know. Who do you think is the next Twins player who has the best chance? We're talking who's the next Twins player who might be a Hall of Famer, I feel like is the question that we're asking.
And I don't think it's an active player on this roster now that would have a chance.
We've talked about how Luis Arraez would be the guy who could have a long enough career to do it, but that guy's got to play into a little better defense, I think, in order to make it that far.
So career, he's got 281 hits, Dan. He's got a ways to go, and And he is 25 years old.
All right, well, maybe I'm not going to hold my breath about that anymore.
My math, Dan, if I do some quick math here, I don't know that Luis Arraez is going to be the next guy to hit 3,000 hits.
Dang it. I was really hoping it'd be him. All right, well, it'll be some other guy coming up that's in the Twin system.
But, I mean, Bernie Mac did it, right? And he even had to come out of retirement, Dan.
You better say more. What is that? What are you talking about?
Mr. 3000. Come on, the guy who built his whole post-baseball career on being the guy who hit 3,000 hits. Then he had to go back into the majors to get those 3 more hits to get him back to 3,000 because it was a clerical error. Because, in baseball, there's a lot of clerical errors that happen. But anyway, on that note, if you didn't see it, you should check out Ichiro Suzuki's first pitch for the Mariners that he threw out. And he threw a 94-mile-an-hour fastball from the pitching mound, which is pretty impressive for a first pitch.
Ichiro, he's 40-something years old. He threw a 90-something mile-an-hour fastball?
Look it up. It was like 93.7 miles an hour or something.
More reasons to love Ichiro.
Yeah, anyway, so him and Bernie Mac. I'm just saying Ichiro could come out of retirement.
The hashtags we're going to have to add to this episode, David, with all the name dropping we're doing here.
I think Bernie Mac should be number 1 on that list, Dan.
All right, can we move on, please? This is a long segment. Let's go to Puckett's Picks.
And we'll see you tomorrow night. Puckett's Picks.
So what I'm saying, though, is it looks like Suzuki has 3,089 hits. So if there was a clerical error where he was actually 90 hits short, I think that Ichiro could come back into the league, Dan.
David, let's move on. We're on the next segment. What are you talking about? Let's go. Anyway, Puckett's Picks. Tell us what's happening.
So Puckett's Picks here, going into the White Sox series. So I get to choose third because I came in second, even though I should have technically won, but there's these new weird tiebreak rules that Dan decided to implement to rob me of victory. But the listeners have taken Buxton for the White Sox series. I think they think that he's either going to be healthy or at least he's going to DH there, Dan. So you get the next pick through some, I'm still not exactly sure, but I got definitely the short end of the stick here, Dan.
Gosh, this is hard because they've all been so poor. My heart wants to go one direction. But I think I gotta go with Polanco. I just
go with Sano.
But I'm gonna go with Polanco. I think Polanco's gonna come home and have a pretty good series against the team that he knows well. Do you remember the time he hit a home run against the White Sox from one side of the plate and then the next side of the plate in the doubleheader? So Polanco. That's why I gotta go with Polanco.
I'm gonna go with my guy, Dan. Nick Gordon, baby. Nick Gordon.
Oh man.
Nick Gordon is going to win me this Puckett's Picks round, Dan, because I don't know who else to pick. I'm going to go with the guy who I am convinced shouldn't necessarily be an everyday starter, but is finding himself in that situation. Nick Gordon for the Puckett's Pick victory, Dan. I am feeling it.
This feels like a Jake Cave moment here, like the time you picked Jake Cave. Well, we'll see. Maybe we haven't seen the last of Jake Cave.
I'd say we see him on this team by the end of the year, the way this is going, Dan.
Oh,
September call-ups. Let's give him one more shot.
So it's my wife's birthday on Sunday, so I'm gonna take the day off for her, and Hogs is gonna get to fill in, and I'm excited to hear what he has to say about this series on Sunday.
Thanks in advance to Hogs. I'm looking forward to it. We will miss you.
Thanks, man. How about you send us out here?
Yeah, we'll do. Happy birthday, Annie. By the way.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
Well, folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on Twitter at Min for the Win and find our Min for the Win Facebook page. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast to be notified when new episodes are available, and if you could leave us a rating, that'd be great. A reminder that episodes are now available on our YouTube channel. And if you could drop us a like and a subscribe, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Twins. That'll wrap up another episode of Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.